everyone. Before we begin, I want to let you know that this podcast is for informational and inspirational purposes only. The advice and insights shared here are based on my personal experiences and expertise, but they are not a substitute for professional, medical, psychological, or business advice. If you are dealing with a specific issue, please consult a qualified expert. And thanks for watching.
Hi, my name is Lisa Williams and welcome to Hope, Healing and Transformation. I am your host and I'm a psychic medium and also a spiritual wellness guide, and I'm here to help you make the most out of your life and live a happy and healthy life as much as possible, as well as communicate with your loved ones in spirit and hopefully give you some hope for the future. On my podcast, we dive into lots of different topics, and we've gone into forensic mediumship, we've done readings, we've done a variety of different things. But one of the things that I'm actually totally passionate about is your wellness and making sure that you stay on top of your own health needs. Now, on a previous episode, we were talking to somebody who had some major health issues, and a lot of it was emotional. And we went through a process of listening to the shoulder and what was wrong with the shoulder and what was wrong with the jaw and everything else. And I wanted to, a lot of people are actually wondering, why do all of these things lead to chronic disease, and what is it all about, and can you explain it? And after the show, I was chatting with my producer, and he's like, you need to talk about this. And I was like, okay. And actually, a lot of people are very, very intrigued about it. So I'm just going to give you some background so you can understand. I've been working with the Tennant Institute for quite some time. The Tennant Institute, I know the family. Dr. Jerry Tennant is a remarkable man. In fact, I always want to say, I just want to swim in that man's brain. He is just so knowledgeable. And he started off as an ophthalmologist. And it's not my story to tell, but it's out there on the internet. He's written many books, and he has a institute in Dallas. Now, one of the things that happened to him is by doing ophthalmology, he was having, a lot of he was doing his thing, dealing with eyes. And what actually happened is he was having some form of, molecules or something going in through his mask and into his brain. And at that point in time, he then no longer could practice. And it was very sad because this man is a genius. I mean, if anyone's ever had any form of cataract surgery, you have this man to thank. And so through the pain and the suffering that he went through, he realized that he had to heal himself. He was bedridden for 7 years, and he couldn't get up. And in those periods of times that he was able to get up, he started to study. And he went back to all of his medical books and everything else. And he started to really dive in. And this was many years ago. And then he went into integrative medicine. When I say the man is a genius, I truly believe that he's a genius, way before his time. And I'm so blessed to have actually worked with him. I've actually had treatments from them. I also work with their devices. And now I actually sometimes go into their clinic and work on some patients. And I have worked with many of their patients. And I also, because of the training that I've done, he and his nurses in there have all been trained by me on sacred soul mastery to do with energy medicine. He talks about low voltage, which is what I'm going to be talking about today. And hopefully that will help you. And also I'm going to be talking about the 5 causes of chronic illness, according to Dr. Tennant. Now, I'm just going to give you my story, my honest story here. And everything I share with you is my own truth. I always encourage you and my listeners and my viewers to actually go and find your own truth. Okay. Find out whether or not it resonates for you. And I was in this industry, I'm curious. I was like looking, I've been in the biohacking space. I knew Dave Asprey. I knew JJ Virgin. I kind of knew these people. And I was sitting at dinner, and we were actually in the Maldives, I believe. We were actually on a big networking thing. And I was sitting next to two people, John and Terry Tennant, and they started to talk about their supplements, and of course my ears pricked up. And we've actually become very good friends. I actually called John and Terry dear friends of mine, and they were starting to tell me about Dr. Tennant. And I wonder, and I'm sitting and I'm listening, and of course I do a lot of healing, so I started to refer people. And then I started to think, you know what, Lisa, you really should go. You kind of really should go. And so at that point in time, what ended up happening is I booked an appointment and I decided to get myself down there. And this was about 2 years ago now. And I started to, I went through all the testing. I had blood tests. Listen, I gave liters. I didn't quite give liters, but it felt like liters of blood. We went through all the medical testing, and it was really interesting. And I was put on all of these magical devices. I worked with this scalar device here. This is scalar device. It's not red light. And what was interesting as I was seeing how he was, and I was listening to Dr. Tennant and how he was talking about energy and the medicine and how we can heal ourselves. And it's actually gone into everything that I truly believed. Because if you followed my story, you will know that when I was 24, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer. And, I went through all of this. I went through it alone. I was ashamed. I didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't tell my parents. I remember taking that phone call with my mom on a Sunday afternoon, go, Mom, there's something I need to tell you. And it was at the point where, I'd just been given the all clear. And I said, so I got diagnosed. I'm okay. And I can't imagine how my mom felt. Poor mom. Sorry, Lorraine. I love you. But seriously, my mom, super close to her now, but it felt weird. I went through this all alone, and I had a lot of, I don't know, I just had a lot of something about it. I felt, shame or something. So anyway, I recognize that healing is really important and that we can heal ourselves. And so going to Dr. Tennant, I started to think there must be something in it. And he talks about 5 causes of disease. And these 5 main causes of disease are very significant. And then he talks about low voltage. And the book, Healing is Voltage, it's an incredible book. And I was a little skeptical. I'll be honest with you. I came away, I'm hearing all of this stuff. I was a little skeptical. I walked back with one of these. And as I'm going through Dallas Airport, I put this into the actual scanner, and there was a guy that comes up behind me, and he looks at me and said, I've got one of those. And I said, what? He said, yeah, I've got one of these. You went to see Dr. Tennant? And I said, yeah. Honestly, it was almost like he was planted there. It was like he was planted next to me so I could hear this. Because I wasn't say I was a little skeptical, but you hear these things and you're not sure. And you hear all of these success stories. You think, is it just someone's kind of blowing their own trumpet? And the guy said, yeah, I had leukemia and the doctors didn't think I was going to live. And I'm like, what? He said, yeah. He said, I have a transducer and a biomodulator. I use them every single day. And he said, and Dr. Tennant saved my life. Well, that was it. My ears were pricked. And I was like, okay, tell me more. And so we just chatted for a few moments while we were waiting for our bags to come by. And he said, oh, yeah, he's the real deal. I go back all the time. And I went, huh. And so then I started to, I got invited to come back. And I know that he works with some really, really well-known people. And I thought, well, if these people are investing in him and sharing time, I thought, wow, this is really important. So I started to dive into his work. And like I said, this man is completely fascinating. And I feel so at home with him. It's something like some form of past life here. But let me get into the 5 causes of chronic illness, and then we're going to talk about healing it. And I'm going to talk about, these are all the processes that Dr. Tennant talks about. I'm not here to promote Dr. Tennant, but there's something about, I am kind of, but there's something about it that actually really resonates for me. So there's 5 real causes, and through his studies, he studied that there are 5 reasons for chronic illness. And chronic illness just doesn't turn up. It's almost like it's layered, one thing layers on top of the other and top of the other. And I'm going to go through what some of the reasons are. Now, I am not a medical expert. I have to just share with you. That is Dr. Tennant's area. You can read about his story. You can do all of that. But I'm just sharing you my knowledge of what I know about it. So the first one is our toxins in the environment. As we know, all around us, we have got things coming into our food. We've got mold in the environment. We've got things being sprayed onto the plants, things that are actually in the air. So toxicity in and around us is causing our body to shut down. And there are so many different toxins that we have to look at and we have to, be aware of. And one of the greatest things that we also have to also be aware of is our skin. The skin is the largest way that we absorb anything into our body. We often think drinking, but this is the biggest organ that we have. And so whatever you're buying, you almost have to look at and read the labels. And so if we read the labels and we see, we've got all of a list as long as your arm, I would question whether or not I actually want to put that into my skin and put it into my bloodstream. So a lot of the things that I get are very organic, and I do a lot with different oils. And I'm very, very cautious about what I take on to my skin, including my sunscreen. I have a friend of mine who, again, it's kind of a little, wasn't intending to do this, but a friend of mine, Jin Amber, she actually has her own skin line, and that's the only product I use on my face, which is her sunscreen. And it is unbelievable because I know it's clean, because I know the actual person. And when I say I know them, I've been away with these people. I know, I've sat at dinner tables with them. And so I know what goes into creating these clean products. And so we have to be aware of everything that we're actually putting ourselves into. And so I'm very aware of the clothes that I wear. I'm very aware of, what fabric softener I use. I'm very aware of what I use in the actual environment in my home. And that hasn't just been, I would say that's fairly recent. In the last few years, but I've recognized how much healthier I feel. So be aware of your toxins, any form of mold toxicity, anything like that. It can really cause some chronic illnesses and we don't even realize it. And so if you're constantly having like this stuffy nose or something going on, or you're having the breakout of rashes, really look at what the environment is, and listen to your gut instinct here as well. Now, the next one is scars and tattoos. Now, not many people realize that scars and tattoos are actually a problem. And I will share with you, many moons ago, all right, when I was in my 20s, I had several body piercings. Don't need to tell you where they all were, but I had several, not just one, I had quite a few. Now, at that point, I was having a lot of endometriosis. I was having a lot of gynecological problems. And I remember going to my Chinese medicine doctor. I called her Linda Pin. She was fabulous in England. And she said to me, do you have any piercings? And I said, yes. And so I told her where they are. She said, I can't tell you what to do, but I think you should take them out. And I said, why? And I said, I keep having these reoccurring issues. And she said, no, you're actually blocking your own energy system. So energy runs through our body, just like an EKG and ECG. What happens is our body is electric. Okay, you cannot say it isn't, because how can an EKG read our heart? Because it's all electric. And so as I was, she said this to me, I said, sure, I'll take take them out. And I took out my piercings. And I was I felt a little bit naked without them. And I was in my 20s and I didn't think anything of it. And then over a period of time, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months later, I realized, wow, I haven't had pain. Wow, I haven't had a heavy, whatever period it was. And then I went back to see my acupuncturist. And she said, wow, you feel so much better. I said, yeah, it's funny, I haven't had any pain. She said, you still got your piercings out? I went, yeah. And she said, that's what it is. And I didn't make the correlation. Now, here is what's interesting. I went ahead and had a massive tattoo on my back. Didn't even think about it. I had it before I went to Dr. Tennant. Didn't even think about it. I was like, I'm having this tattoo. It means something to me. It's very, very powerful, very precious to me. I'm having it. But since I've had that, I'm like, wow, my neck hurts. Wow, my back hurts, all down the tattoo. And so there is a correlation, because what's happening is our energy needs to flow throughout our body. And whenever we have a tattoo, okay, interesting enough, let me just share this. This is Sanskrit for surrender to the divine, or surrender to spirit. And I remember having it. Since I've had it, I've had nothing but carpal tunnel problems. I don't sit and type at the computer a lot, but this is my weaker hand. And so really and also I have one on my hip. Again, I have a hip issue. And so what happens is our body, it's running energy through our body constantly. And when we are having a tattoo or a scar, so scars as well, so if you've had knee surgery, hysterectomy, or anything like that, even I have had thyroid problems. Whenever we have a form of scar, what we're doing is we're blocking the energy that needs to go through it. And so when we're blocking the energy, and some of you are like, okay, how do we stop that? I'm going to share with you. It is not a major issue, okay? But we have to understand that there are correlations. It doesn't help. And when you have one or maybe two of these things, and then you add this on top, it could be a little bit more of an issue. So there are many ways that you can do it, but basically it's blocking the energy that is going through your skin and your body. And again, if we think about it, especially with a scar, I've been cut 3 times on my abdomen because of hysterectomy and different forms of operations that I've had. I've got a lot of energy break there. And so sometimes I can feel that. And unless I rectify the energy, it is hard to do it. So I'm going to share with you how this works. So this device, which is what I was talking about, is scalar energy. Scalar energy is chi, quantum energy, it is prana. So it's the energy that we create by doing any form of healing. So whenever you are sitting there and you're in meditation, or you're asking for energy to come through your hands and you're feeling it, and like I can feel it now, that is scalar energy. There's also somewhere here a necklace that I can show you I have, and it's scalar energy. So I'm just going to share with you here that we have a device that actually measures scalar energy. And so as you can see, if I use a normal pendulum, okay, it is just going to move. Okay, so you can see it's moving. My hand isn't moving. My energy isn't moving, but it's just going to move. By using this, and again, it's not going to move when it talks about energy, but it will move for scalar energy. Scalar energy being the quantum energy, the energy that is in that that cosmos, that chi energy. All right, so I'm just going to share this with you. I'm just going to share with you on this. You'll start seeing how it will move. All right, so here we go. Started to move without it. All right, ready? There we go. So as you can see, it's now starting to move, and it's starting to swing because it's connected to scalar energy. I'll put a link to this, and there's actually a lot of history about this. So I'll put a link to it because you can actually see what it is. Now, so as you can see, scalar energy is going through. What I'm also going to show you here, let's wait for that to stop. Slowing down. I put this here, again, which is scalar energy, and you can see that this is still swinging. All right, now, I'm also going to show you when I start channeling energy into this as well, and you'll see that it will be exactly the same. So again, I'm going to show you, okay. Just making sure my hand is not moving. But as you can see, I am channeling and sending through energy. And at that point, let's just make sure it stops. There we go. We're going back to a standstill. At that point, you can actually see that that is all the same. Now, for those of you who are not watching the podcast, I'm actually going to, and you're just listening, I'm going to suggest that you go and watch it on YouTube if you can, because you'll actually see that I'm using a pendulum and I'm using specific things that are actually moving the pendulum. So this is kind of a visual podcast. So please go over to youtube.com /Lisa Williams medium /podcasts, and you'll actually see it there. So let's go back into this. And while you're at it, like, subscribe, and, share with your friends, because this stuff is really important. Okay, so let's come back to the energy in our hands. So if we rub our energy in our hands, what we're doing is we're creating energy. If we pull our energy apart and our hands apart, you're now going to start feeling a bounce. And at that point of the bounce, you're going to start feeling like it's a little bouncy ball or a little bit of a beach ball there. All we need to do is send that energy into our tattoo area. I'll use this one because it's closer. And send it into there and just sit with it. And just imagine some white, fluffy, flowy light, I don't know, whatever it is, a river streaming through you. Imagine something, and you can actually rectify your scars and tattoos. Now, does it need to be done on a regular basis? Absolutely it does. You can't expect it to be a one and done. You're going to have to do it every couple of days. But for anybody who, struggles with any form of chronic illness, I'm really going to suggest that you actually rectify this. So the next one is thyroid. I am not an endocrinologist. I am certainly not a doctor, but I do know that whenever our thyroid is off, that can actually cause some form of wonkiness in our system. I don't know enough about this to talk about it, so I'm just going to leave it there. But I do know that our thyroid is very important regarding our hormones. As we know, our hormones are part of our allowing our neurochemicals to actually release. So it's all very interconnected. And we have to understand that our thyroid needs to be balanced. Now, the top 2 reasons for any form of chronic illness, and this is where a lot of questions have come from. And then I'll talk about what voltage is dental work and emotion. So let's talk about dental. And some of you are going to start sitting forward and go, all right, let's talk about this. So there is something called biodentistry. I'm a big advocate for biodentistry. My personal dentist is not a biodentist. However, he is a personal friend of mine. He also follows Dr. Tennant's work. He has also studied with me on energy medicine. He's also somewhat of a healer as well. I shouldn't say somewhat. He is a healer. And he has transformed my life. And he really, really looks at what he puts into patients' mouths. And his work is phenomenal. Many years ago, I had a root canal on the left side of my face. I absolutely hated it. I went through the TV show. I did the Kardashians. I went through Oprah. I absolutely had a black tooth, and I absolutely hated it. But I was scared of the dentist. Okay. When I was a kid, our dentist used to be called Dr. Pullen. Great name for a dentist, if you ask me. But I used to have fillings without any form of numbing. And so, of course, I felt all of that. As people may know, the English do not have the greatest of teeth. It's just something we don't have. And so I had a lot of amalgam in my mouth. Amalgam is the mercury, the black fillings that were in my mouth. Cut to, I then started to, I had this problem here, and I then had a replacement in this tooth on my left-hand side. And I started to, I don't want to think of it. It was a, just a replacement. I went, okay, I'm just going to leave it in, and it stayed in there. I had a huge whopping chunk of metal that I had to emergency surgery on there for that, and I ended up needing that filled. At that point, I must have been in my early 20s. I feared the dentist so much that I never had anything done with this tooth for a very long time. And then when I went and had a replacement done, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, and then I hadn't been to the dentist in 8 years. And then what happened is I was on an event. I'm in a mastermind class or group, and somebody had said, hey, I live here. And I'm like, you're very close to me. He said, and I'm a dentist. And I went, oh shit, I don't want to become your friend. No, I don't want to be your friend. And as it happened, we went to Vale together. My husband was sitting there, and we all got into a conversation. I said, you're the dentist, aren't you? And he said, yes, I am. Fabulous guy, French. And we started to talk about our accents and everything else. And I said to him, I went, I have this tooth and I hate it. And he said, I can do that, Lisa. So I'm not and I'm like, oh, no. There's no way you're getting near my mouth. There's no way. And when you're talking to a dentist, you always think that they're looking at your mouth. It's like when you go talking to a hairdresser, you always think they're checking out your hair, and they're not. But anyway, so I went to Dr. Tennant, and he said to me, he's like, get the amalgam out of your mouth. You're going to feel so much better. I was having chronic migraines. Let me talk about this. I was having chronic migraines to the point that they were debilitating, absolutely debilitating. I gave up alcohol. 2.5 years ago. And it was a massive thing for me, and kind of helped my headaches a little bit. But I was still having a few here and there. And then when I went to Dr. Tennant, he said, you do realize that that's what's causing your headaches? I was like, no. Did all the muscle testing, of course. There it was. And so I started to do the work. And as I'm sitting in Dr. Tennant's office, I literally text my friend Olivier, the dentist, and I said, I don't want to do this, but I need to book an appointment with you. Well, anyway, they were so amazing, got me in for a cleaning. I'm going to tell you, right, I left here, my house, and I cried all the way to the dentist. I'm a grown woman. I am 51 years old. I was crying all the way to the dentist. In fact, my friend was on the phone with me, talking me through just to make sure I wasn't going to turn around. And bless her, Karen, I have to tell you, Karen, thank you so much. I had two friends trying to get hold of me, Karen and Amy, and because they both knew how bad I was. I went to the dentist. I walked in. I was like crying. Anyway, and I had this cleaning. I was going for a cleaning, people. A cleaning, really. So anyway, we scheduled. He's like, you're going to have this work. And I committed to it. And I came home, and my husband looked at me and went, are you okay, babe? I went, I went to the dentist. And he's like, oh, okay. It was traumatic. So Olivier worked wonders. He took out my amalgam of my amalgam of my mouth. He put in a new crown. He put a crown in. He did an implant in my mouth, and we did a deep cleaning, and I had major work. And I will tell you, I wasn't awake for any of it. Yes, I was so happy. And I will tell you, after removing all of my amalgam in my mouth, and I now wear retainers because I'm now straightening my teeth. I thought, I'm having all this work done. I'm gonna straighten my teeth. I haven't got them in right now. And what happened is I started to look at it, and I was like, all right. So I'm going to share with you. I didn't actually realize how important it was, and so I started to notice, after having my amalgam out, I wasn't getting the migraines. I started to notice that my food cravings had gone. And I also started to notice that my sleep was so much better. Now, there are lots of different places that you can go to. And there are lots of different, people that you can go to. And I think it's important that you find one that is good for you. I'm just pulling up a dentist chart here, only because I think it's important, and there's lots of different reasons, and each tooth relates to a body part, okay, which I think is really significant. So the amalgam and the silver fillings, it's metal in your mouth, okay, and over time, as you are eating, what is happening is it is starting to break down, and it's starting to cause a problem in our mouth, and it can cause difficulties in health. Now, I am going to say to you, the American Dental Organization may not actually see this, but I will share with you some patient stories that I have. However, the mercury poisoning that is going on can cause fatigue, it can cause chronic illnesses, it can cause neurological problems, it can cause jaw issues, it can cause teeth decay. So you have to remember that is significant. Now, a lot of root canals, people say, well, what about root canals? Why can't I have a root canal? Well, if you think about what a root canal is it could be an abscess, it could also be a scarring in the actual area. And so therefore, we don't want the scar there. What we actually want is we want it clean, because remember, scars and tattoos cause problems. So this is the interesting part of it. If we look, mine was the top left-hand side. All right, so top left-hand side, it was tooth number, hold on, let me just do it. There it was. So it was, oh, interesting. Here we go. So it was the first premolar. And if I look at it, it was tooth number 12. And if I look at it on a dental chart, which we will give you a link to a dental chart as well, so you can download it, they are out there. The organs, that the meridian that it's on, meridian is Chinese medicine, and Dr. Tennant will call them polarities, is large intestine. It affects the liver, the pancreas, the large intestine, the stomach, and the left lung. It also has problems. It also can cause pituitary, posterior lobe, and thyroid. And guess what problems I've had? Thyroid. I had partial thyroidectomy. It can cause problems with your upper extremities in your muscles, and your shoulder. I had a massive problem with my shoulder at one point. I was having a lot of toothache, and I was having a lot of problems with my shoulder and a lot of issues with my elbow. And that's where it is. It's all about those issues in the joints, the shoulder, the foot, the big toe, the shoulder, and the elbow. And then it can have other relationships. So the other relationship for me, it was eye diseases. I had a problem with my eyes. Go figure. Some things that I can't even pronounce here. Schizophrenic aspects, ocular fungus diseases, mental varieties, cell respiration, fermentation, liver, stomach, pancreas issues. So there's a lot of things here. And it can have some issues with the colon. So I was like, let me look. So I started going to down here where I had a massive, massive filling. And that would be the bottom right. And it was actually here, it was 30. It was Yeah, it was 30. Okay. And that was the large intestine. Oh, go figure. The large intestine up here. Oh, the large intestine down here. Again, upper and lower extremities, everything that actually related to it was all causing the same problems. It was causing the elbow problem, the knee problem. It was causing the shoulder problem. It's causing all of those things. And then the pituitary gland. So I started to look at it. Now, I am going to share two cases here. Both had breast cancer. And one of the women I was working with, I said, just randomly, I went, have you had any problems with your teeth? And she's like, well, that's funny you should say that. I've had this one tooth that's just every time, something's been bothering me, blah, blah, blah. I said, can you go and get it checked out? She said, yeah, it's dead. And I went, what do you mean it's dead? I said, can you just get it pulled by any chance? Just get it pulled. And anyway, so she looked at her history and she went, wow, 6 months, she's been diagnosed with cancer 3 times. She said, before each diagnosis of my cancer, I've always complained about that tooth. So can you go and get it pulled out? And then so she did. And she's got no evidence of disease now. Now, I'm not saying that that is the reason for her cancer. But let's just say it doesn't help. Again, I know somebody else who had breast cancer and couldn't understand what was going on. And I said, you have fillings, don't you? There's a problem with your fillings. She's like, what do you mean? Dentistry. I said, go and get those taken out. And, so it really is important for us to take care of our dental hygiene. I could go on, but here we go. And then, of course, the emotions is the 5th reason why we actually have chronic disease. And many of you have actually said to me, I absolutely believe in psychosomatic symptoms, and it's true. Whenever there is an issue, if we're going through something emotional, then something comes up. I'll tell you, my husband just went into the field in California. It was kind of like this grief. I'd spent like this 3 weeks with him. It was so amazing. I knew I wasn't going to be able to speak to him for about 7 weeks, or it would be very, very sporadic. But there was a period of time I didn't speak to him for 2 weeks. And it was hard. And it was kind of like this period of grief. I got home 3 days later. I lost all my voice. And I'm like, of course, psychosomatic. And so our emotions have a massive part to play in our health. So a lot of you are actually saying to me, are going to say now, so how do we rectify this? And what is voltage? So I want to talk about voltage. Our body is like an EKG, all right? So our body is energy, all right? And so that's how an EKG works. It reads the energy. When the energy is so low, and Dr. Tennant will talk about battery packs and polarities being flipped, I will talk meridians, okay? Because it's probably a little bit of an easier language to understand. Many of you understand Chinese medicine or acupuncture. And this is the reason why acupuncture is so powerful. And I will say to people, go and get an acupuncture treatment if you're going through any form of chronic illness. Acupuncture will work hand in hand with Western medicine. All of these methods will work hand in hand with Western medicine. It is just energy medicine that we're working with. They're ancient techniques. They're not here to take away from Western medicine and from pharmaceutical and anything like that. If that's your jam, go for it. But it works hand in hand. It will work with it. And so voltage in our body, we want the voltage high. If we're looking at Chinese medicine, they all automatically know that if we keep our voltage high, we can renew our body. So if we can renew our body in 365 days in a year, and all of our cells, all of our muscles, all of our tissues can renew itself, why do we get chronic illness? Because, like many people know, the liver can rejuvenate itself. Why do we get chronic illness if our body can replenish itself? And that is because of low voltage. What is happening is when your voltage is below a certain number, it doesn't have the energy to replenish and regrow new cells, all right? Because that's what we need to do. If we are maintaining an energy, what we're doing is maintaining voltage, but we're not increasing voltage to a point that we can actually we can create new cells. So we want to keep our voltage high. So when we talk about, let's say we've had problems with our dentist, we've had problems with toxins, we've had problems with tattoos, we've had problems with our emotions. Certain meridian points, Dr. Tennant will call them polarities, but certain meridian points then start having blockages. And at that point, there becomes a blockage. And that point, there becomes an issue. And if it stays blocked for so long, then it can lead to chronic illness. It can lead to chronic illness. I'm not saying it will, I'm saying it can. And so what we have to do is make sure that all our polarities are open and all our meridians are open. Each meridian relates to a different emotion. And there are lots of different charts. And again, I can put a lot of links up here. Well, when we look at our gallbladder and our liver, that is relating to anger. All right. Now I'm working at the very base level here. There's lots of different other emotions that they relate to, but I'm just working baseline here. So if you know these different baselines, it gives you a place to start. I don't want to go too complex because I can overcomplicate it. And I don't want to say, well, it could be anger, resentment, blah, 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 blah. But I want to start baseline because many of you are like, okay, how do I help myself? So if we start to look at the baseline, gallbladder and liver, and you're going to say, how do I know? I'm getting there. Gallbladder and liver are anger. If we look at this area here, which is actually the pericardium and the triple burner, but Dr. Tennant calls it the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, that is anxiety. Then if we have the large intestine and the lungs, if they're blocked, that is often related to grief. If we have the small intestine and the heart is blocked, that can be related emotionally to sadness. Then if we have the stomach and the spleen blocked, that emotion is worry. You're worrying. And then if you have the kidney and the bladder blocked, it is fear. So based upon those basic raw emotions, and again, like I said to you, those of you who have studied Chinese medicine and those of you who probably go to acupuncture or are acupuncturists or understand homeopathic work or anything like that will go, well, and you've got this. I recognize that. But for most people out there, you want to look at one basic emotion. Otherwise, we're complicating it. We're making it all complex. And so what we can do is we can muscle test. And the simple way of muscle testing is by using kinesiology. You can use a pendulum, of course. You can ask for a sign for a yes, and then you can ask for a sign for a no. And then you can start going through the different meridians. But I like to use simple muscle testing. So I'm going to ask you to do this. With your left hand, or with your non-dominant hand, mine is my left, I'd like you to make just a circle. Bring your fingers together, all right? And then with your dominant hand, what you're going to do is either make the loop, interconnect your finger and thumb through there so you're kind of making a chain, or pop your index finger just through the loop to see and to create resistance. So what you're going to do here is you're going to create resistance, and when it creates resistance and it's firm, that means your body is strong. Just like somebody who is doing a polygraph test, what you're actually doing is you're working on a physiological basis where your body has a baseline of physiological reactions. And so when something is truthful and your body is acting and it's saying, yes, I'm strong in this, it's not going to break. When you are weak in it, it will break. Okay. Or if you're lying or if it's incorrect, you'll be able to break through that chain. Let me explain. My name is Lisa. All right. I'm breaking through. I can't make a break. My name is Kate. I can break through that. No matter how much pressure I actually put down, I'm going to break through. Now, for those of you who may have weaker hands, you don't have to do this like pull it. You just push it and it'll just, you'll feel a resistance or you won't feel a resistance. So what we're going to do is we go through the gallbladder at the top of the head. Dr. Tennant and I work on Dr. Tennant's here, and he programmed it all the way up into the brain, so top of the head. And so we go through the different areas. So gallbladder, then we do the parasympathetic, we do the sympathetic, and then we go into the large intestines at the front here, and then we go to the lungs at the back, and then we go to the liver underneath our arm here on the left-hand side, and then we go into the small intestine, and then we go to the heart. Oh, mine popped open. Guess that. Okay, and then we go to the stomach, and we go to the spleen behind, and then we go into the bladder, and then we're going to the kidneys, okay? Now you can check this. Now I don't want you to get into your head. Some of you might be going, well, it's breaking. You know, if you're struggling with it, use your pendulum. Ask for a yes, ask for a no. And I have a video on this. In fact, I'm going to link the video down here because you rewatch it, but I actually really explain the polarities to you in that video. And what we then do is, again, much like we did with the tattoo, we send that energy, we work with scalar, and we can actually send energy to ourselves. And those meridian points will open up. It is a simple breath work every single day. It is a simple meditation. It is not getting up and running out the door. It is not getting up and starting arguing. It is getting up and just having a moment to breathe. So having that moment to breathe. And then what we're allowing ourselves to do is align our meridians and align all of these polarities so our energy centers work. Now, once we have done that and everything is moving in the way that it needs to, we then need to exercise. I don't enjoy exercise. However, going out for a walk is going to increase the voltage in your body if you can. Moving your arms, moving your legs, increasing your blood flow is going to help you increase your voltage in your body. And so therefore, you know, when you're doing that, when you're increasing the voltage in your body, you can regain new cells, new organs. Everything is just, sort of starting to regenerate itself. And that's the part that is really important here. If you look at any form of biohacking, and there's a big movement right now, Dave Asprey, the biohacking convention, he's a friend of mine, I adore him, he's a great guy, and he's very, very knowledgeable in this space. You know, there's a lot of talk about, letting go of cells that we no longer need, those zombie cells he'll talk about. And it's true, we need to let go of things that aren't working anymore, and our body wants to heal itself. Our body truly wants to heal. And so when we can use this, and we have knowledge is power, and when we can use the polarities and the meridians, we can start looking at our emotions, whatever. So my heart, which is blocked, is sadness. So that means I might have to journal on that. I have to look at, why am I sad? What is that underlying sadness? Because it's always my heart that's always the one. No, I don't have any worry. I don't worry about a thing. What is that underlying sadness? And when I start thinking about it, I'm like, oh. So there's an underlying sadness. So it's like, I need to deal with this. And so writing letters, doing rituals, doing journals, meditation, breath work, sound bowls, things like this, aligning the chakras, our major energy centers of our body, are so vital to keeping our health and wellness and sleep and diet. There's so many things that we can do. So I feel like I've talked a lot about all of this stuff. This has been very, very informative and a huge amount. And I have studied this for years, and I feel like I've only scratched the surface with all of you. But I want you to remember that your body is energy. And these 5 causes of illness and these 5 causes of chronic illness are not helping. And so when we have books like, Healing is Voltage, we have the Metaphysical Anatomy that you'll always see me relate to. In fact, I do want to get her on my show, so that will be an amazing episode. When we are starting to work with our dentistry, you're then starting to feel great. I will tell you, I'm in the best health that I have ever been. I feel so good. I mean, you have no idea. I'm playing Bob the Builder in my kitchen. I bring all sorts of stuff up. I've lost weight. There's so much that we can actually do to help ourselves when we start looking beyond, the symptom, and we go to the root cause of our body. So I hope that this has helped you. There's been a huge amount of information. I've probably created more questions for you right now. And I'm going to say it's really important that you find you listen to your own intuition. If this relates to you, great. If it doesn't relate to you, that's okay. I'm not attached to what you believe in. As long as you have a belief in something and you believe that you can heal, that is where the hope comes from. My aim in all of this and to do this podcast is to actually bring hope. And on my website, my tagline is where hope begins, because it is about bringing that hope in to each and every single one of you. So therefore, you can truly heal your life. I remember, I'll just tell you this final little thing. I remember reading Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life. And in fact, I might even have a copy somewhere on my bookshelf. It's over there. And I've got another copy up there. But You Can Heal Your Life is a powerful, powerful story and journey. And she did a lot of affirmations. And just by doing affirmations and working with EFT, emotional freedom technique, what you're doing is you're working somatically to allow the energy just to be released. And you're starting to tell your brain that you are loved, because we've got something that's deeply hardwired in our brain. When I start playing Dr. Google, then I start realizing, oh my God, what's actually happening is my brain is then trying to find all the reasons, and it's trying to reason with itself of who had problems with their foot, who had difficulties, what was going on, blah, 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 blah. And suddenly you're like, oh, there's an issue there. And that's the reason why, because it creates data, it stores data. And so your brain is looking for every reason to believe itself. But also your brain doesn't know what's fact and fiction. It only knows what you've told it. And so therefore affirmations work because you're starting to tell yourself something new. You need to say it out loud 3 times. And then it starts creating new neural pathways for you to actually start rewiring your brain. Because at the moment, we're hardwired in to think, oh my God, I've got a problem with my foot. That's going to get amputated because my grandfather had gout. It's going to look for reasons because it's working on data. So remember, intuition is really a powerful part to actually start playing in all of this. I encourage you to start listening to your body. I'm going to encourage you to start breathing. I'm going to encourage you to start doing the work that you need to do to heal yourself. And you can do that. So my name is Lisa Williams. Thank you so much for listening. I'm so passionate about this topic, and that's the reason why I'm able to tap into people's bodies and be able to say where the root causes come from, and we work emotionally. That's the one reason why I start work as a psychic medium, but I'm also able to bring that work into the healing aspect and recognize that somebody who's been struggling with grief for so long may have some lung problems, or may have some eyesight problems because that's on the same meridian, or may have issues with their stomach because they have underlying grief that they haven't dealt with. So, sending you all so much love. I encourage you to find the hope, heal yourself, transform your life, and always remember that you're the most important person in your life, and to always put yourself first, even if it's just getting up 30 minutes earlier so you can do your little exercises that we've shared in today's episode. So if you've enjoyed this, please like, share and subscribe, and we would love to have you as a guest on the show if you need closure, help or understanding some form of chronic illness or things that you have in your life. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for joining me today. And remember, the information shared on this podcast is meant to inspire and support you. but it's not a replacement for personalized advice from a qualified professional. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone who might benefit. And don't forget to tune in next time. Until then, take care and keep believing in something better.